Morning. Morning. Hello. Trying to get an early start this morning. I got here at half an hour earlier than I usually do, but I'm only starting 15 minutes. I'm only starting baking bagels 15 minutes sooner than I usually do. So I didn't manage my time very good this morning, apparently. A little bit too much water in there. I'm making bagels today. I make bagels every day, I mean. Welcome. I hope things are going well in Ukraine. Ukraine, the birthplace of the bagel, I'm sure. Or Poland. Poland or Ukraine, I don't know. Poland closed, yeah. I'm sure there was no one birthplace of the bagel. I'm sure there was. It evolved independently. What's bagels? These are bagels. They're boiled. They're boiled in honey water. These are Montreal style bagels. Bagels, by the way. Bagels, B-A-G-E-L-S. That's how it's spelled in English. Montreal style bagels here in Vancouver. I like to say Montreal bagels, Vancouver style. Whatever that means. No, it's dough. It's a bread product. Bread. I don't know how to say it. It's dough, flour, yeast, water, eggs, salt. Whatever else to put in with the dough. See that? I put them on bagel boards. Yeah. Okay. See, they're in the fire. They're in the oven now. I already have one batch in the pot. I have 2 batches going. Yeah, they're boiled in water, and that gives the what does it do? It makes the crust a little bit more crustier, I guess you'd say. And it so like a Montreal bagel has like a hard crust, and then like a really dense, chewy crumb, as they say it. So the crumb is really dense and chewy, and the crust is hard and crunchy or crisp, I guess it should be. Yeah, so yeah, it's a circle. Yeah, it's a circle. Yeah, I guess it's similar to a bun, like a steamed bun, I guess. The crust on a bagel should be thicker than a bun, I would think. No, these aren't donuts. Donuts are sweet, bagels are savory. For the most part, I mean, you can have a sweet bagel, I guess. Like we make a cinnamon. We make cinnamon here, and it's on the sweet side. Not as sweet as a donut, though. And donuts have much higher fat content than a bagel would have. I think a bagel has like 2 or 3 grams of fat, whereas a donut probably has like 9 or 10 grams of fat per donut. So I'm waiting for these bagels I'm waiting for these to boil, and I'm waiting for those to they're getting if you can see them, they're starting to get really fat, and they start to shine because they're drying out and starting to get a little bit of a brown on there. Yeah, I don't know. North American donuts are really sweet. I don't know. Maybe European donuts are different. Making circles. Yeah, I'm making circles. Yeah, so I boil them first, then I put them in they go on the table, I dress them, and I put them on bagel boards, and I put them in the oven, and there's 4 stages in the oven where they're on the boards for about 2 or 3 minutes, then I flip them onto the deck, and they sit on the deck for about another 2 or 3 minutes, and then I put them in the center of the oven where there's uniform heat, and then I let them brown, and I flip them and I let them brown on the other side. And this is my paddle that I use to move the bagels. You can see that they've dried out a bit. Oh yeah. Yeah, these are hot. It's hot right here. Nice and warm. Okay, I'm gonna take out my next batch. Is poppy seed. Oh, not broken? Yeah. No, it doesn't break. So some of the seeds come off in the oven. So. Lost a bagel somewhere. These are poppy seeds. Poppy. Black seed. I already got the white seed in the oven. Doing black seed now. I'm making Montreal style bagels. got another batch in the oven, or got another batch in the pot, and we got 2 in the oven. 2 in the oven. I need to have 25 dozen by 7:30. So I have 5 dozen in the oven right now and 2.5 dozen in the pot. So we're well on our way to being on our way. My oven's says it's at 390, which is a little bit on the hot side, but we need to bake fast, so it's good. I need to mark some. It's coming soon. It's this right there. Some are the few of the bagels are still in the bottom of the pot. It's waiting for them to come to the top. There's some everything mix. I'm baking bagels. Montreal style bagels. Montreal style bagels. My God, why can't I say that? Fucking bagels. What is that? Here I'm just reshaping them a bit, making sure that they're circular. It's 4:30. 4:30 a.m. I believe. 4:30 Pacific time. My shift goes from 4:30 to 12:30. I need a new Shiva. This one's getting dull. I'm gonna try to sharpen the edge a bit. Slivers. What do you mean? The bagels are boiled in honey water. That was. How much is one bagel? I don't know. Just let me check. They're $1.75 Canadian. Vancouver pricing. Oh, Vancouver. Why are you so expensive? It's Vancouver. Everything is expensive here. You can hardly pay people enough to stick around a job these days. It's about 20 minutes from start to finish, I guess. When did I start? I started like 20 minutes ago. Yeah, I'm about to take my first batch out, and it was about 20 minutes. I've been baking for about 20 minutes now. Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, you know, $1.75 for a bagel. One bagel. That's not much. A bagel and a coffee is gonna cost about $5, $6. I think that's pretty decent. That's a bagel with spread though. It's a decent breakfast. We also make sandwiches here too. Bagel sandwiches. Obviously. Why would we make bagel? Shaping the bagel. Oh, I gotta take that batch out. I'm gonna hurry. Gotta work fast. Work fast, work fast, work fast. I don't really need to do all these. Let's do this one. Let's put the salt on. First batch, a little brown. How many flavors? We have sesame, poppy, everything, plain, rosemary rock salt, cinnamon, almost gluten-free, multigrain. I think 7, 8. I think that's all. Oh, and rainbow. We have rainbow. Rainbow bagels. Yeah, I make them all. I make them all here. Well, we have dough makers that make them in the back. We have a dough making machine. And the dough makers make them during the day. And then I just finish them, I just bake them here. I like sesame, and I guess cinnamon's my favorite. Cinnamon raisin. We don't have a cinnamon raisin right now, but we have a cinnamon. I think we're going to be bringing back a cinnamon raisin eventually. So I like cinnamon or cinnamon raisin number 1, and then sesame number 2. We make a really good almost gluten-free bagel as well. I'll show you one of the finished ones. It's a little browner than it should be, I think. I missed that comment. Yes, Montreal, Mr. Bagel. Mr. Montreal style bagel. Mr. Bagel. That makes me think of that Simpsons episode. Mr. Plow. Mr. Bagel. He's wearing that his tow truck costume, whatever, the uniform. Yeah, great episode. Mr. Plow. I don't know any of the other words, so. Mr. Bagel. Here we go. These are poppy seed. They're coming. They're coming here from the property. Those are bagels in a swoop. It's a bagel swoop. A swoop of bagels. What do you call a group of bagels? You call them a swoop? No, it's actually called a batch, but when they're flying, when they're in the air, they're called a swoop. A batch of bagels in the air is called a swoop. Fucking. It's one swoop. Those are good. 30. 15. 15. There's 30 in a batch. There's 15 on each board. I make about 1,000. I make about 1,000 today. 1,000 bagels. There's a poppy seed bagel. Hamlin, Townsend, Brunswick, my famous Hanover city. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you've never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats, and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses from the vats, and licked the soup from the cooks' old ladles, split open the kegs of salted sprats, they nest in men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor is a naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking to think we buy gowns lined with ermine for adults who can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin. You hope because you are old and obese to find in the furry civic robe ease. Rouse up, sirs, give your brains a racking, find remedy we are lacking, or sure as fate will send you packing." At this the mayor and corporation quaked with a mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length the mayor broke silence. "For a gilder eyed my ermine gown sell, I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I scratch it so, but all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap." Just as he said this, what should happen? At the chamber door, but a gentle tap. "Bless us," cried the mayor, "what's that?" With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fact. Nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister than a too long opened oyster, save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous for a plate of turtle green and glutinous. Only a scraping shoes on a mat, anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. "Come in," cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long, queer coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes, each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek, nor beard on chin, but lips where smile went out and in. There was no guessing his kith or kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, "It's as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone." He advanced towards the council table, "And please, your honor," said he, "I am able, by means of secret charm, to draw all the creatures living beneath the sun, that crawl or swim or fly or run after me so as you never saw. And I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, the mole and toad and newt and viper, and people call me the Pied Piper." And here they noticed round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat of self-same check. And at scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers they noticed were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe, as low it dangled over his vesture so old-fangled. "Yes," said he, Pied Piper as I am. In Tartary I fed the cam. Last June from his huge swarms of gnats, I eased in Asia than I am, of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders? 50,000 was the exclamation, an astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe a while. Like a musical adept, to blow his pipe his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and a muttering grew to a grumbling, and a grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses came the rats tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old connors, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the Pied Piper for their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to Ratland home his commentary, which was, at first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe into the cider presses bright, and moving away at people tough boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and drawing the corks of train oil flasks, and a breaking loops of butter casks, and it seemed as if a voice, sweeter far than by harp or by psalteries breathe, called out, "O rats, rejoice! The world has grown to a vast dry saltery. So munch on, crunch on, take your nunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on, and just as a bulky sugar punch on, already staved like a great sun shone, gracious scarce an inch before me, just as me thought it said come bore me, I found the Weser rolling over me. You should have heard the Hamlin people ring the bells and they rock the steeple. Go, cried the mayor, get long poles, poke of the neck and rock the holes, consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rats, when suddenly up the face of the pipe was put in the marketplace. The first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders. The mayor looked blue, so was the corporation too, for council dinners made rare havoc with claret, moselle, vin de gras, hawk, and half the money would replenish the seller's biggest butt of Rhenish to pay this sum to a wondering fellow with gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, and a matter of money to put in your poke. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you well know, was in joke. Besides, our losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The piper's face fell and he cried, no trifling, I can't wait beside. I promise a visit by dinner time, Baghdad, and accept the prime of the head cook's pottage. All these riches, having left in the Calip's kitchen, the nest of scorpions, no survivor. With him I prove no bargain driver. With you don't think I'll bait a stiver. And folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. How, cried the mayor, do you think I brook, being worse treated than a cook, assaulted by a rival, with idle pipe and vesture idle? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst. Once more he stepped into the street, to his lips again laid his long pipe with smooth straight cane, and ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as the musician's cunning never gave the enraptured air. There was a rustling that seemed like a bustling of merry crowds jesting and preaching and hustling, small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping, little tongues chattering, and like foals in a farmyard when barley is scattering, out came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping around merrily after. The wonderful music was shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb and the council stood, as if they're caged to the blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry, till the children merrily skipping by could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd on the piper's back, and how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosom beat, as the piper turned from the high street, to where the Weser rolled its waters, right in the way of their sons and daughters. However, he turned from south to west, to call for till the steps addressed, and after him the children pressed, great with the joy in every breast. He never can cross the mighty top. He's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reach the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed. When all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No, one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, if we blame his sadness, he was used to say, "As dull on our towns as my playmates left, I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me, for he led us, he said, to a joyous land, joining the town and just at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers before the fairer hue, and everything was strange and new. The sparrow was buried, the peacock here, and their dogs outran our fallow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagles' wings. And just as I became assured, my lame foot be speedily cured, the music stopped, and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas for Hamelin, there came into many a burgher's pate a text which says that heaven's gate hopes the rich at his easy rate, as an eel's eye takes a camel in. The mare sent east, west, north, and south, gone with the piper by word of mouth, wherever his men's lot to find him. Silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he'd return the way he went, and bring the children behind him. But when they saw to his lost endeavor, and piper and dancer were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly. If after the day of the month and year, these words do not as well appear, and so long after what happened here, on the 22nd of July, 1376, the better in memory fixed, the place of the children's last retreat. They called it the Pied Piper's Retreat, where anyone playing paper tabor was sure for his future to lose his labor, nor suffered they hostelry or tavern. The shop was third the street so solemn, and opposite the place of the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their children were stolen away, and there it stands this very day. And I must not admit to say that in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way and dress of which their neighbors lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison into which they were Japan, long time ago in a mighty band, out of Hamlin towns and Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So, Lily, let me and you be wipers of scores out with all men, especially pipers. And if they should pipe us free from rats or from mice, if we promise them aught, let us keep our promise. That was Pied Piper of Hamelin by Robert Browning. The best poet ever, who ever lived. I yeah, I do move a lot. It's a good workout. I should develop an aerobics plan based on baking. The Bagel Man, yeah? They call me the Bagel Man. Call me the Bagel Man. We got rosemary rock salt browning. We got on both sides. It's gonna be brown on both sides. Almost done. We got plain that's browning on one side. We got cinnamon here, and we got rosemary rock salt in the pot. And we have 120 bagels over there. 4 batches. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askance to watch the working of his lie on mine, and mouth scarce able to afford suppression of the glee that pursed and scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What save to waylay with his lies and snare all travelers who might find him posted there? And ask the road, I guessed what skull-like laugh would break, what crutch can write my epitaph for pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous track which all agree hides the dark power, yet acquiescingly I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring. I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring my heart made, finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, and takes the farewell of each friend, and hears one bid the other go, draw breath freely outside, since all is over, he saith, and the blow fallen no grieving can amend. While some discuss if near other graves be room enough for this, and when a day suits best for carrying the corpse away, with care about banners, scarfs, and staves, and still the man hears all and only craves, and may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft be writ, so many times among the band to wit. The knights who through dark cowardice should dress their step, that just to fail as they seem best, and all doubt was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that needful cripple, out of his highway into the path he pointed, all the day being a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, yet shot one grim red leer to see the plain catch its astray. For mark, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged to the plain after a pace or two, when pausing through backward a last view, over the safe road was gone, grey plain all round, nothing but plain to the horizon is bound. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went. I think I never saw such startling noble nature. Nothing throve, for flowers as well expect a cedar grove, but chortle and spurge according to their law, might propagate their kind in one new law. You think a bird had been a treasure trove, No penury inertness in grimace, in some strange store were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said nature peevishly. If nothing spills, I can't help my case. 'Tis last judgment's fire must cure this place. Calcine's claws have set my prisoners free. If they're pushed any ragged thistle stalk above its mates, its head was chopped. The bents were jealous of what made the holes and rents in the dog's harsh shores meet. Bruised is the walk, all hope of freeness. 'Tis a brute must walk, passing their life out with the brute's intents. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair in leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud, which underneath looked kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, his every bone a stare, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. Alive, he might be dead for aught I know, with red, gaunt, and pallid neck strained, and shut eyes beneath the rusty mane. Seldom went such grotesqueness with such woe. I never saw a brute I hated so. He must have been wicked to deserve such pain. I shut my eyes and turned them on my heart. As a man calls for wine before he fights, I asked one draught of earlier, happier sights. Ere fitly I could hope to play the part. Think first, fight afterwards, soldier's art. One taste of old time sets all to rights. Not it. I fancied Cuthbert's reddening face beneath its garniture of curly gold. Dear fellow, till I almost felt them fold. An arm and mine fixed me to that place. That way he used, alas, one night's disgrace. Oh, at my heart's new fire and left it cold. Giles then, the soul of honor, there he stands, frank as 10 years ago when knighted first. An honest man should dare, he said he durst. Good, but the scene shifts. Saw what hangman's hand pinned to his breast the parchment. His own band reads that poor traitor spit upon and cursed. Better this present than a past like that. Back therefore to my darkening path. No sound, no sight as far as the eye can strain. Will the night send a howl or a bat, I asked, when something on the dismal flat came to arrest my thoughts and change their train. A sudden little river crossed my path, as unexpected as a serpent came. No tides congenial to the glooms. This as it frothed by might have been a bath for the fiend's glowing hoof. To see the wrath of its black eddies that spat with flakes and spumes. So petty yet so spiteful, all along no scrubby alders kneeled over it. Drenched willows flung them headlong in a fit of rout despair. A suicidal throng, a river which had done them all the wrong, whatever that was, rolled by, deterred no wind. Which while I courted good saints, how I feared to set my foot upon a dead man's cheek. Each step revealed a spear I thrust to seek, for hollows tangled in his hair or beard. May have been a water rat I speared, but ugh, it sounded like a baby's shriek. Glad was I to reach the other bank now for a better country. Vain presage, who are the strugglers? What war did they wage? Whose savage trampled to dust pad the dank soil to a plash? Toads in a poisoned tank, or wild cats in a red-hot cage. The fight must so have seemed in that battle, sir. What penned them there with no claim to choose? No footsteps leading to that horrid news. None out of it. Mad Druids set to work their brains, no doubt, like galley slaves a Turk pits for his pastime Christians against Jews. And more than that, a furlong on, why there, what bad use was that engine for? That wheel, or brake, not wheel, that harrow fit to reel men's bodies out like silk, with all the air of Tophet's tool, on earth left unaware, or brought to sharpen its rusty teeth with steel. Then came some scrub ground, once a wood, next a marsh it would seem, now mere earth, desperate and done with, so the fool finds mirth, makes a thing and mars it till his mood changes, and off he goes, within a rude bog clay and mars shand and stark black dirt. Now blotches rankling colored gay and grim, now patches where some leanness of the soils broke into moss or substances like boils. Then came a palsied oak, a cleft in him, a distorted mouth that splits its rim, gaping at death in his eyes while it coils. As far as ever from the end, not in the distance but the evening naught, to point my footsteps further out the thought, great black bird, Apollyon's bosom's friend, sailed past or beat its wide wings, dragon pen, that brushed my cap perchance the guide I sought. From looking up and where I somehow grew, the plain had given place all round to mountains with such names to grace, mere heights and heaps now stolen in view. How thus they surprised me, solving you, how to get from there was no clearer case. Yet half I seemed to recognize some trick of mischief had happened to me, God knows when, in a bad dream perhaps. Here ended then progress this way, when in the very nick of giving up one more time came a click, as when the trap shuts you in the den. Burningly it came upon me all at once. This was the place. Those two hills crouched like two bulls locked horn in fight, while to the left a tall scout mountain, Dun's daughter to dozing at the very nunce after a lifetime of training for the sight. What in the midst lay but the tower itself, the round squat turret, built of brown stone without a counterpart in the whole world. The tempest's mocking out points to the shipman thus, the unseen shelf he strikes on only when timbers start. Not sea, because of night perhaps, why day came back for that. Behind it left the dying sunset, kindled to a cleft. The hills like two giants in the hunting lay, chin upon hand to see the game at bay, now stab an enemy creature to the heft. Not here, when noise was everywhere and told, increasing like a bell, names in my ears, of lost adventurers, my peers, how such was strong and such was bold, and such was fortunate, yet each of old, lost one moment, now the woe of years. There they stood, ranged along the hillside met, a living frame for one more picture in a sheet of flame. I saw them and knew them all, and yet, dauntless the slughorn through my lips I set and blew, child roll into a dark tower came. Sorry I missed all your comments there. I was reciting a poem by Robert Browning called Child Roll Into a Dark Tower Came. It's a masterpiece of Victorian literature. A masterpiece, I says. Let's put salt on here. If you search worker, what? Good enough. now 5:30 Pacific time. 5:34 to be exact. Yes. Beauty of woman and a wise heart's words, and men-at-arms and their nobility, the colloquies of love, the songs of birds, and handsome ships on the fast-running sea, the calmness of air as daybreak looms, and white snow falling on a windless day, a flowing brook, a meadow full of blooms, silver and gold and lapis in array. The heart asks pleasure first, and then excuse from pain, and then those little anodynes that deaden suffering, and then to go to sleep, and then if it should be the will of its inquisitor, the will to die, the liberty to die. Yeah, missed that one up. and cinnamon, really nice ones. Cinnamon, these are my favorite. Thanks for watching. Have a great morning. I will see you tomorrow, I hope. Have an excellent morning. Thanks for watching again.